Welcome to round number 2 recap of Montreal Open 2025. Go check out round number 1 recap if you haven't seen it yet, but we start with round number 2. So I was playing with white pieces after a good start in round number 1 with black. Was given white against 1925, so it's back-to-back lower rated opponents, 18 and basically 1900 opponents. And I started with the e4. So before the game I looked at his games and he played Neidorf, which was his recent game with black pieces, and he played 96 a while ago, but honestly I didn't look at it, I didn't know what to expect, and as he told me after the game, he actually prepped Rasalimo against me. So he goes e6, I go takes, which I've been playing for a while, and after d3 he goes knight e7, expecting me to play knight g5, one of the moves here, which I played online. And now knight g6, something like f4, and we're playing this nonsense. But you know, I played this with white for a while, and at some point I just stopped liking the position. Like, I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Another alternative in e6, probably just to go castling next time, because you know, I can't say it's anything bad, but you just simply develop your pieces, bishop f1, then c3 d4, play in the center. But I still managed to surprise my opponent, because after knight e7, once again, as I said, he expected knight g5, I played knight bd2. This move exists, the positions are equal, he goes queen c7, immediately trying to take up some center pawns, center space, and play 5. So, and here apparently the main move is h4, but because I myself haven't checked the line before and I haven't looked at this line for a while, now I have to, because, you know, preparing for future tournaments, I played e5. e5 is not that bad, because I'm always happy with this d5 or d6, because then I just take and you kind of have the c6 c5 double pawns, and you know, after simple b3 I don't let this being traded, and it's very tough to protect both of them. a5, he goes a5. I mean, it's, I didn't really understood it, but I was like, okay, I mean, a5, I don't really worry about it. And now a4. So computer likes knight e4 better, and after knight g6 play h4, trying to push h5, and apparently I am actually in a very good spot. Takes, and h6, and if g6, bishop g5, and this bishop is just super strong. And as you might see, too many double pawns, white have a little edge. a4, knight goes to f5. I actually didn't understand that move again. Get the knight to d4. I like knight g6 more, but then I would go knight c4, queen e2, and h4. Maybe that's why he decided to go for knight f5. And now I go knight c4, protecting the pawns again. d5 takes, bishop d6, and now I go b3, trying to go bishop b2 or bishop a3, and of course take this pawn. And after castle, I looked at this position, trying to understand what I should do. Move like castle in here didn't really look good, because I thought bishop e7, and then I'll have some problems taking this pawn on c5, so I gotta get rid of this bishop on d6 in order to attack this pawn. So I played knight d6, which is the main line of computer, and after queen d6 I played castle. Now e5, and once again I had a question to myself. So what happens after something like bishop a3? This move is still good, but I didn't really like it. Let's say rook e8, knight d2. That's what I kind of looked at. And now I was like, what if queen g6, bishop c5, knight h4? And you know, bishop c5 is of course not the best move, but now I have some problems. That's what I looked at, and that's why I didn't go for this line. Here the best move would have been king h1, but again, I wanted to kind of disable this queen g6 maneuver. That's why first I play rook e1, which is again the main line of computer, and only after f6 I go knight d2 and trying to get knight to e4 and then bishop a3 and take the pawn on c5. So knight goes to d4, knight goes to e4, attack and c5 pawn, now queen d5, bishop a3, knight e6. And at this point I was like, okay, who is even better? And of course you can see the evaluation, but if I turn it off, like, it wasn't that obvious to me. What's more surprising, I'll discuss it after the game, like there was another surprising fact which I didn't expect at all. Of course connected to evaluation of this position in general the game. So here I was scared what happens after, let's say, f5, knight f4, rook f6, rook g6, and suddenly, you know, it became really scary to me. But I was like, okay, if I play precise, there shouldn't be a lot of problems. He goes f5, I go knight c3, attacking the queen, and honestly, I wanted him to play queen d6 because queen d4 looked too active and too aggressive. So I go rook e3, I'm trying to get my rook somewhere to g3. And after rook f6, rook e1, I'm attacking the pawn e5, he goes e4. Now I go knight e2, attacking the queen, and after queen d5, I had some c3 which I didn't see, I had f3 which I saw but I didn't want to play, and, you know, kind of weakening the position of my king. I played bishop b2, attacking the rook on f6, because after rook g6, rook g3, I saw another option for myself. So here I knew that, so we basically discussed it a lot after the game, because rook g3 capture appeared to be kind of bad. You will see why. But the problem is rook g3 is the second line, and the better option is bishop a6. But then still I go, I mean, computer says h4, h5, which is wild, because I probably wouldn't have played that, because I was still a bit scared. But after takes, and takes, there was a question, what do I do with this pawn on d3? Because obviously if I retake, then, okay, I'm still a bit better, but, you know, pawn is a pawn. And I have this weakness, I have a4 weakness. Yes, my bishop is active, but you never know how it might turn out. So I came up with something else. So c4 was one of the options, but I didn't see it, I gotta be honest. This move came up a bit later in the game. c4 was actually played, and you'll see in what moment. But c4, the point was c4, and let's say queen goes back to d6, I go knight c1, and I just take the pawn, and I have an absolutely insane advantage. But after takes, I go knight f4. My plan was that after knight f4, I can play first, I calculate queen f4, which was right, but I didn't see the follow-up after d takes c2, because I looked at queen c7, and now something like queen f7 loses due to rook e8. But of course you don't have to play queen f7 and blunder rook e8, you can play not queen d7, because once again rook e8, and then what we calculate, rook c8, oh, queen d7. But rook c8 I think is what we looked at as well, but now rook a7. Yeah, actually a funny position. But yeah, queen d7 losing as well, bishop d7 was a lot better, and after rook e7, queen d1, queen h5, it is a draw. So after considering this queen f4 option, d takes c2, queen 7 didn't work. But what I didn't see that queen g5 actually wins the game, because now let's say rook a7, I can play rook e8, king f7, and take on c8, and then capture on g7 is being threatened. I'm completely winning. There is nothing that black can do. So after queen f4, I decided to go for a safer option. I didn't have much time to calculate, so I played g takes f4. I was like, d takes c2, I can play queen c2, I can play queen c3 and attack the pawn on g7. He goes queen d6. Queen d6 appeared to be a huge mistake. Now I gave a check, I'm not sure for whatever reason, and now I go rook e3. Now of course you can't take because queen d6 is coming. He goes bishop a6, protecting the pawn, and now I go bishop e5, attacking the queen. So there were a lot of inaccuracies. I didn't convert it the most precise way, obviously, but because there were just so many ways, and I kind of knew that this gotta be winning, but I just gotta convert it the simplest way possible in order not to blunder something myself. And after king j8, rook g3, g6, I go c4. Finally, this move is played on the board. And what's the idea? The idea is now after rook d8, protecting the pawn, I can play bishop f6. When pawn was on g7, king f7, I didn't have this option, but now I have it. And now, even though materially wise, this position is equal if you count the pawns 6 versus 6, but of course, this bishop is just another pawn on the board. Like, all white pawns are on light squares, and it just prevents this bishop from being activated. My pawn structure is insanely strong as well, locking this bishop down too. And after queen e6, bishop e5, I locked everything. Bishop c8, queen a5, I take the pawn, then I take another pawn. I'm up 2 pawns now. So you might actually see how things turn out. I was down a pawn when he took on d3, and now I'm up 2 pawns. Few moves later, king h2, rook a3 takes, queen f4, queen g3, and now I was slowly converting queen c7, f3. By the way, at queen d8 moment I was like, okay, I'm winning the bishop, but what I forgot about is that this bishop is still hanging. At this point I was like, why is he not resigning? But, you know, it was very late. The round started at 7 on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. At that point my brain didn't work. It was like 11 o'clock in the evening. Like, you don't really play chess at that moment. Your head is already sleeping. So it was like, why is he not resigning? And yeah, king f7, queen c7, f3, and now, you know, we transpose to an endgame. After king f4 he admitted his loss. I'm basically moving my king up, and then these pawns are coming. I can do whatever I want. He could have played on, because there are always some tricks, but in this position I would never given him a chance. And I started the tournament with 2 out of 2, and round number 3 I was playing against international master rated, I believe 23-19. You will see this game tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.